see. It's loading. Let's see. Checking. We're gonna wait until this thing says that we're
Loading,
live.
loading. Reaching maximum capacity. I'm sorry.
It
I
says
played
we're
too much
live.
Persona.
Reloading just to make sure.
In the main
Let's
line?
see.
No. Persona 5 Royale.
A fucking chorus.
All
Well,
right, we
look,
are live.
I didn't play the last one, but I played
Hey,
fourth one.
we are live. All right.
Yay!
So Will is not here, so I'm going to be doing the hey, welcome to the anime podcast for 10/18. We just watched Ghost in the Shell. We're gonna introduce ourselves now, and yeah.
We have a special
that
guest.
was about it. Yeah, we have a special guest. So you can start it out.
Well, guess go first, I guess.
Who's this?
Alright, this is Sugar Mostly, aka Nines.
I am Getsu or Josh.
Neko here.
Okay. It's your boy Striker Red, or Louis, also known as the worst member in Outpost 1018 history by a long shot.
Well, it's not a higher brow to clean, really.
I mean, I am the worst member here.
Nah,
Well, depends how
that
you look at that.
rotates.
Word's not
Each
mine,
of us,
bro.
each of us cares. Bad. It rotates. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's someone else. Blah blah blah.
Sometimes it's me. Look, I'm the one with the angry orchard and the sushi, so I'm probably the most degenerate here.
I'm eating coconut cookies and drinking Kool-Aid. So
Oh God. Okay.
Our guest here is Will, or Dragon
Oh shit! I didn't know. I was just...
Dragon full of grenades.
yeah, we have
Hello.
funny. We usually have another Will. Our good
Christ, how many
co-host.
Wills do we have?
So Hikaru is usually here. Josh, they're the two co-hosts.
Yeah.
Since that Will is gone, it's I find it funny that our guest's name is Will. The equation
Just
has not
replace
collapsed.
one. Just
Maybe we
replace
should just
one.
nickname him Will I
Yeah.
Am.
Yeah, I'm the substitute.
Well,
All right.
Speaking of Neo,
The equilibrium has not been disrupted.
speaking of Will's in the chat, in the video chat. So
Yes.
what's up, man?
hello.
I
mean,
we just
so-
Have we all introduced ourselves, or
Yeah, we all just did. Yeah.
okay? Yeah,
This
and
is
I'm
way
just
off the
I'm
rails
just
whenever the guy that normally does all
I'm-
the introductions.
yeah, okay. So hold up. All right. So we got Sugar, we've got Dragon Full of Grenades, we've got Getsuryu, we got Neko, we got Striker Red, and then you got me, RJ, or Baron, and we're gonna be doing Ghost in the Shell, the movie, the original 1990s release.
Thank God it's 1995 episode,
Yeah,
but not the other
alright.
one.
Yeah. So just to give like the basic overview, Ghost in the Shell, the one that we watched was the 1995 release based off the manga. It is a
Yeah.
Japanese cyberpunk media franchise. It was produced by Production IG. And yeah, this was so popular it branched off into Standalone Complex and all the other spin-offs, and now there's a live action that came out 6 years ago on Netflix, and no one talks about that. So we are just going to be talking about this movie. So let's start with our normal. What did everyone think of the animation?
For 1995, it still looks pretty good. I mean, it aged quite poorly, I would say, but
You're too quiet,
okay. So,
Josh, you might want to check your your sound.
I saw. I'm
Well,
working on it.
Fun fact, though, I want to say something. This show was actually quite historic. In the case of the entertainment history, it was one of the first animes to be to have a high grossing ticket number of at least 1 million. I remember right. Well, it was like 1 million, right? On the
Sounds
box
about
office.
right.
Yeah.
It also
Go ahead.
it has also been an inspiration to the creators of The Matrix.
Yeah, the Wachowski, the Wachowski brothers
Wachowski's twin.
or sisters did watch this, and it was it was what the direct inspiration.
Yep.
And
And only a few films where you have two different English titles. One is Ghost in the Shell, the other one is Armored Riot Police.
really, I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
Man, that sounds like something that would come from either Saban or 4Kids.
Pretty much, I guess, but I don't think it's going to be for kids. I mean, I would be
Also-
surprised if they ever heard that.
Also, speaking of it, I would also like to bring up like the filmography of the director Mamoru Oshii. He's
Mhm.
also done
Yeah.
some pretty experimental stuff like Angel's Egg and Morocco,
Oh God.
and another series called Talking
Mhm.
Head, which was live action. He also did another popular series of movies called Pat Labor, which
Oh
is
yeah.
sort of sci-fi, sort of cyberpunk.
It's Pat Labor was more of a police show, like he goes in the shell.
Police procedural and somewhat modern day.
He also
Robots.
did the sequel to Urusei Yatsura, at least the movie. He was also the director of Urusei Yatsura 2, Beautiful Dreamer.
Yep. I mean, he also did Jinro, the Wolf Brigade.
He wrote it.
Yeah. Not only that, he also directed the live-action adaptation of the film. That's a funny thing, actually, because he really, and that's funny fact about him, is like he really hated Ghost in the Shell to do the TV film. He really hated the whole thing. He's like, this thing sucks. I'm gonna redo the whole thing because when we say it's based on original Mamoru Shiro manga, it has nothing to do with the whole thing except the characters and maybe the world, because as people know, his works are, shall we say, borderline hentai, essentially, because that's what he does. You look at all of his stuff that he ever did, it's pretty much hentai. And Oshii hated the whole thing. Hence why, by the way, in Japan, the film got panned and completely shitted on because, like, it's just not the same thing. It doesn't have a sex appeal. It doesn't have the same character models, whatever the thing is.
Despite major stripping for half the movie.
Yeah, but in the original, it was way, way more than that. It's like, imagine someone makes High School DxD in Hollywood. Like, this is how much people are gonna hate the same thing, and they hated the thing in Japan.
It was
Hence
a
why.
lot more toned down, even though
Oh yeah.
so many people like it's like, oh my god, there was nudity, oh no, and like it was this
But-
terrible thing to like a lot of Americans, like to the main audience. It was just over the like it was so mellow compared to like
So
Yeah.
speaking of Mamoru,
Yeah.
So speaking of Mamoru Oshii, when you mentioned that he disliked working on it, as if he was trying to improve on the original manga.
Pretty much. Well, not only that, he wanted to direct the film that he actually wanted to direct for the same time is the Wolf Brigade, and the committee forced him to do the Ghost in the Shell film before the rest of them. Basically, they gave them a choke, like, "Well, you got to make this film, and then we're gonna give you money for the other one." And he's like, "Well, I guess." So it's a funny fact, but it's like kind of disturbing at the same time. It's like, this is effed up, but this is what he is supposed to be doing. He's a cool guy, though. He remember, this is the guy who directed almost right before the show is Angel's Egg, which, if you look at the last scenery of where Makoto fights the tank, the genealogical tree is exactly from that film. So there's a little bit like Easter eggs, I should say, basically in that specific one. And right before it was like, Pet Labor, which is the second film, just blew up the whole thing. And right after he directed the Wolf Brigade, and right after was the Bloodlust Vampire, which is like insane, basically, in terms of the quality of the whole thing. But he kind of redeemed himself in terms of like he went back to the Ghost in the Shell and directed Innocence, the second film, which we're going to discuss later probably. That's where he basically unleashed his creativity in the first place. Because this one, I'm sorry for all of the like historical curiosity that this film is. It doesn't have a lot of themes. It has very like veneer of it. It's really wide as the ocean, but like deep as a puddle almost. And it doesn't have anything to do with original one, as I said, original manga. And like visually, it's still beautiful. It still holds up pretty well. Well, except to certain scenes like 3D animation stuff.
On that nutshell, we should totally get into the animation and aspect of things.
Yeah.
And
So
the artwork.
well, artwork is. I mean, I didn't find that particularly offensive in terms of artwork. It tries to be this kind of at that point, like realistic and stuff. As of 1995, this is cutting edge animation, graphics, lighting, all of this stuff. Does it hold up now? I don't know. The way that they portrayed the water, for example, I'm sorry, like there's a lot of problems with that scene where that criminal tries to shoot Makoto.
Toko.
It-
But yeah.
There's
Matoko,
a lot
sorry.
of parts of it that like it's very reminiscent of the time, but you can also see
Yeah.
like where it was on the bleeding edge and
Yeah.
like how well it was done. There's a lot of animation things throughout it that it's like I wish that there was some things as clean in this as it would be today, but like it's not clean at all today. Meanwhile, there are parts of this that like it's like yeah, this is very dated. A lot of the inside the water stuff, like anytime that like they were like floating through, you can tell that it was like in the 80s or the 90s, sorry, and it definitely was reminiscent of the time. There was like a lot of times where they would be focusing on trying to get the physics right, and then you can see that everything else is dull in the background. And then whenever they wanted to just show like how gorgeous the scenes are, there's a stark contrast between like the backgrounds being so well like and lively compared to like some parts where it's just like wow, this is just like an empty warehouse and you know that the fight's gonna happen because they don't want to have too many things to interact with.
Yeah. Not only that, but like you can clearly see there's a lot of budget cuts in the film.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why there's like a lot of pen scenes there where she goes. There's a beautiful scene where she goes into one of those docks basically, and like a boats, like what is the traveling boats in the city, and it's all yeah, and it's all like just the pen shots. No movement. There's a little movement here and there, but like there's nothing in the background. It looks beautiful. Well, it was beautiful back in the day. Now it's like a little not crispy as it should be really now. Even though if you look at 4K re-release of the thing, it's still not quite there. Like there has to be some kind of a neural network work done on that thing to make it more crisp. They're not going to do anything, obviously, but
you can tell the
wishful
difference
thinking.
between like the animators and the artists, I think is the best way to put this. You can tell like the people that are spending the time to make like these gorgeous sceneries and like make sure that everything looks perfect and amazing. Meanwhile, if you're like watching like some of like the fight scenes, like it felt like everyone was trying to do their best, but like the two aren't combining well.
Yeah,
And
the only exception I would say is the first, was it the making of a cyborg scene, where the gorgeous, absolutely amazing animation, and absolutely beautiful music by Kawai. Like, oh my god, it still holds up very well.
Yeah, we'll get into the
So
music a
good.
little bit later. Anyone else have anything
Uh,
to say
well,
on animation
yeah,
now?
not so much animation, more like the artwork. But I'll be real when I say this is nothing more if not a good throwback of 1990s Kowloon in Hong Kong, especially especially the buildings in the city where everything happens. And for those who don't know the Kowloon Wall City is, it's a massive interconnected area of Hong Kong. It's a slum, if you will. It's a huge one. It used to be absolutely batshit how many people live in that dense square of a building. That place actually inspired a lot of cyberpunk movies back in the day. If you consider not just the bright neon lights, but also the fact that it was a very low income area in a city that was full of rich people. And I really appreciate the fact that all right, this one is gonna be car related more than anything else. But I like the fact that Bato's car was based on the Alfa Romeo SC. That car exists, and the other car that Bato actually drives is a Volkswagen Corrado, which are which was a two-door coupe that Volkswagen released in the 1990s. It was supposed to be the successor of Scirocco, and when I saw it, I was like, "Damn!" They actually went there and and modeled cyberpunk cars after actual sport coupes. I know the Italians have good taste, but damn, I know the Japanese have good taste in it, but damn. Uh, Animation wise, I really like the fact that they used the car as a scale for the tank in the final scene, because there's some detail regarding regarding the the vehicle and machinery design. I want to commend whoever came up with whoever worked on that particular area. Animation wise, well, is there any CGI? I mean, I watched the 1.0 version. And I know you watched the 2.0 version, Kira, but is there like any?
So it's kind of like CGI. Do you know what rotoscoping is?
Yeah, a little bit.
So they basically they would do digital rotoscoping. They would make really simple virtual models and then pose out a lot of, like, they do it a lot for the vehicles and stuff. There's some scenes with the tank, and I think where they used it, and you can usually tell because they have like a higher frame rate and the shapes are like more defined. And yeah, I'm trying to find the thing. Hold on. But to answer your question, I mean, I guess that's kind of like CGI, but it's more like they kind of made something to trace off of when doing the cells.
Considering this was cell animation,
Yeah.
there was a lot more attention to detail. If Will was here, I know he watched this, so this is more about his area of expertise regarding cell animation.
Yeah. No, the cell animation was amazing. It was
It was
extremely well done. The scenes where like they were running through the people, like all of the, like, you can see the details that were super well drawn. There were a couple errors whenever it just came into just like normal drawing things, where a couple of the buildings by perspective were off, but like it was slight, and you have to actually know what you're looking for it to actually be a thing. But outside of that, everything else looked really, really good. Yeah, I think we can move on to the audio. So
Is it me or the intro theme actually sounds very familiar to me, like I've seen it somewhere in a channel, but I can't put my finger on which one was it.
Did you know that sorry, cut back to with the intro thing?
Mm-hmm.
The numbers that flicker are all of the animators and stuff in some sort of code. I can't remember which one, but it's like technically the entire credits before the movie.
We're all in binary, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's legit.
Yeah, so no, like the music scores were really, really good throughout the entire thing. Uh, there were a couple silent scenes that felt like they should have animation, and I know, or sorry, felt like they should have music in them. But like I think that they were trying to like draw on like the suspense of it, and they could have done a little bit better of a job where silence was used compared to having audio. Um, there were a couple other issues where like some of the
Or
sound effects from like the gunshots felt a little off, but outside of that, like audio wise, it again like we're talking 1995 this was released, so it was probably worked on from like
Eh, I'm,
93,
I'm,
92. So
I'm, I'm quite the minority in the sense that in some scenes I do prefer the silence. It's already
it,
hectic enough as it is regarding real life, so admiring some scenery with in silence would be something needed. At least.
one of the one of the few scenes where there is no music, there's just bland silence, is where you as a viewer are supposed to take in the atmosphere and take in the sort of the mood that character actually feels, as opposed to having this bravado of sounds of any kind of sound. Period. This is one of the things that differentiated this film from other films like that in the same vein, like for example Dallas, the previous Mamoru Oshii film, where it's just music all the time and it doesn't work sometimes. It's fine. I mean, it's not a they wanted that to be artistic choice, or if they just didn't pay Kenji Kawai for that, or. Uh, but those scenes, they actually, in my opinion, enhancing what you have here for offer. Now, there's other problems with the film. We're going to discuss it later, but
my issue
that
is
is a
more with
plus.
I think that the pacing was a little like, and we'll get into like the plot, but I think the pacing was
Yeah.
slow. But so by having those long drawn out scenes where there was nothing in them, there were parts where like it would have worked if it was maybe like 15 seconds shorter. Things like that.
But
Like it wasn't just like I didn't like it. It was that it kind of sat for too long. To one of the things about music is uh, good memorable music you'll remember, bad music you'll remember, and then moments where it's supposed to be where it like trickles in, you won't remember, but that's what's supposed to happen. The lack of it is bad. The moments where like you remember it are bad. Um, so from a music standpoint, there are some times where you don't want to like have it be this memorable piece, but if it's not there, then you notice,
but
and those moments where you notice and it sits too long end up being like sometimes that's up to like the person to figure out if that was a bad choice or not. I think it sat too long. It's not that
well,
those moments shouldn't have been there. It was that it sat too long.
so you think like they were stretching the?
Yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, can we go? Can we go on the plot now?
Anyone else have anything? Because we usually go to voice actors. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
because I got a few things about that exact note, so
yeah,
keep that in mind.
yeah. We can get on that,
Uh,
but like let's at least talk about the voice
I
acting.
mean, if
So
anyone,
apparently the intro was actually used in the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, from what I've
yep,
read.
Yep.
yep,
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, no, like
that's
I did not know that either.
the
it's
the music that was there, like that's the thing. It's like the music throughout the entire thing, the opening, the ending, like the high points, like just the trickle-ins, like is so great. And I don't want to like say anything bad about the music composer himself, because he has done so many good works from all across different animes and movies. So I don't even want to like touch on like the like I'm saying anything bad about him. I'm saying that like the use of his music in some spots was a little off, and that's the issue. Um,
We can do the plot, or
well, let's do voice acting like we always do. So
can I?
Okay.
All right, I will have first take, and that's regarding the voice acting. I watched it in Japanese, and interesting enough, the woman who played Motoko, Atsuko Tanaka, is also famous for a couple roles. One of them was Lisa in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And regarding she also played Kaine in Nier,
Oh yeah.
and of all things, she also voiced Bayonetta. She in all three games, she was the voice of Bayonetta.
Yep. In Japanese voice acting,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
not
And
the other one.
yeah, and interesting enough, she's also the official voice of Motoko as well in the other movies, in the
Yeah.
other
Well,
series.
sorta.
Sorta.
They have alteration between two voice actors. Just
Yeah,
like in this one.
yeah, in 2.0, she was replaced by Maya Sakamoto.
Yeah. Um, the thing is, because I know the both dubs. I would say Japanese one is a little bit better, not by much.
yeah,
Mainly because
Yeah.
the Mami Woods, who voiced the Motoko, she kind of sucks. I'm sorry, but like she
Mimi
kind of
Woods.
is. Yeah,
She's
yeah,
fine.
Mami Woods. She kind of bad. I'm sorry, but like there's I don't know what happened. Too bland of performance, like delivery is just flat.
mm,
It doesn't like there's and look, I get what she's going for because she's supposed to be a cyborg that doesn't have emotions and all of that stuff. But like if you look at Japanese dub, that's clearly not the goddamn case. So it's like, did they not had original dub uh or text when they were doing that thing, or is it director's fault or whatever? But this one and the 2.0 is the same damn thing. So I don't get it. Like that's just it's like
so
Manga Entertainment just clearly fucked up. I'm sorry. It's
yeah,
just
just to answer your question, the English dub was released 1 year later, so they would have been able to hear the Japanese.
which is more odd
Which
because like
makes it worse.
yeah,
There
yeah.
is also a reason why Mimi Woods didn't do that many roles through her entire career. Um,
Well, she was fine in some roles,
yeah,
but that's clearly not. I would say this is more of a. It's not because she sucks as a voice actor, because she has a few good roles there. It's more like it's miscasting, basically. I don't know what the hell happened. Maybe there is some kind of a show that, like some kind of a podcast, explains what the hell happened there with people who were there, but I just think it's miscasting because in El Hazar, for example, she is fucking perfect as Shayla.
yeah.
But
I'm gonna disagree with you. She's only done 10 roles total, outside of like a couple video
yeah,
games
yeah, but
based
like
off of the shows that she was in. So, but like that's what I'm saying is like she made bad choices. Obviously that showed that like she wasn't ready or wasn't good for the role of a voice actor or an actress.
I mean,
Like even if she had like one or two good roles out of like the 10 that she did, she obviously wasn't hitting the high points. So
I
like,
mean,
but that's gonna affect the English dub, and that's gonna affect how like I viewed it. I didn't.
I mean, she was perfect in El Hazar as Shayla.
Yeah.
Like
Um.
she was right on the point
But
as a main protagonist of the like what TV show that it was like what 40 episodes or something in total.
yeah.
Like, come on, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's basically miscasting. That's all fine.
Mhm.
They unfortunately didn't fix that in the 4K Blu-ray release, but hey, you know, can only do so much.
But yeah, no,
So
but
though,
yeah, but we're talking about this,
Yeah.
not other.
We're talking about manga entertainment. Come on.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I'm saying it's like we're just talking about this one movie. She didn't do a good job. The English voice dub wasn't the greatest. I was, I watched it. A lot of it, and this goes back to a part of the issue of like English voice dubs in the 90s and the 80s is a lot of them are like cheap on the cheaper end of trying to like just find someone to just do it, and then
Yeah.
also just people not caring or like not doing as amazing of like a voice thing, or having like the studios to be able to back them. So yeah, the English dub was a lot worse than the Japanese.
well, I wouldn't say that far, but it's not as good.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just not as good.
yeah, it is. So I didn't watch the English dub, but I assume that she. We could talk about the other voice actors, like for example Richard Eckhart
Mhm.
or
Richard did well. Like Mimi Woods was
Sato.
really bad. I
You
would
got
say
Christopher Lloyd.
a couple of them were a little bit flat, like and just didn't have like the right notes and tones for like the certain scenes. But others like nailed it, and there was like there's just like some parts that just didn't relay well. So that would have been whoever the director was in charge of the dub would have been the issue, in my
Yep.
opinion.
Yep.
But yeah, so I
I
think
mean, Richard voices Bateau all the way until like today, basically.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. So
anyone else have anything to say
Oh.
about the voices?
I would say we're gonna discuss the rest of the voice actors. For example, Akio Otsuka. I know the guy is the voice of Wamu in JoJo's Adventure Part 2. Besides Ryder in the Fate series. Hold on. Yeah. I will say I thought it was. I actually legit thought it was Unsho. I legit thought that battle was voiced by Unsho Ishizuka, the late Unsho Ishizuka, but that wasn't the case because I thought, wait, damn, did I hear Joseph Joestar in this shit? But no, maybe it's because how much of a Chad Akio is. He's also the voice of Solid Snake in the graphic novels of Metal Gear Solid.
really,
So, yeah. I'm just scrolling through the IMDb filmography he did.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. He also played. I know. We're yeah. I know he's the voice of Solid Snake
Oh, well,
in the Metal Gear series. So there's that as well. That is one of his most famous roles. But as Bato, I like the chemistry between Motoku and that's more characters than anything else. But regarding voice acting, the Japanese was slightly better than the Americans, but that's just my bias because I was just watching the 1.0 version yesterday. So, it is like he's also the voice of all for one in My Hero Academia.
oh god,
Yeah,
that's
think-
quite a list.
yeah. As in, all for one. Isn't that the blonde American superhero? That guy?
Pretty much.
Shit.
All
Yeah.
for
Okay.
one, I believe it is the villain.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
He's faceless
Yeah.
for most of the show.
But-
And
I don't watch My Hero Academia, so I wouldn't.
Anyway,
But I'm
Yeah,
gonna fucking
all for
put it
one's
down.
the main villain. Yeah.
And okay, so where are we going right now? The plot, or should we go with the? We can do the plot first, then we can talk about the characters.
Yeah.
let's do characters first and then plot because they kind of related in the opposite direction here because characters are more flat as opposed to the plot. So, but
Okay,
Go
so since we're going into the characters, I really first things first, I would like the chemistry between Motoko and Bato, since considering they go way back.
Mhm.
not only that, but Bato clearly wants her in the bed. Come on,
Yeah,
like
he legit gives a shit about Motoko.
Speaking of
Motoko,
which, like, so ending of the movie, the ending of the show, the ending, I believe, of the second film. I don't remember. It's always like Bato's like, so are we gonna go do a thing or like blah blah blah, and she's like, oh, I have to figure things out, and then like the very last series prior to Netflix, it's like I was upset with how it ended. And after this, I'm going to transition to Will's, because Will actually wrote a couple papers on Ghost in the Shell. So um, there's themes of transhumanism identity that are important to Ghost in the Shell. Hence the term Ghost in the Shell. But
it's
anywho,
just supposed to be described as souls in that aspect.
yeah, your psyche, your identity. Anywho, what I was trying to get at is basically. Was it Solid State? Yeah, that's Solid State Society. That's the
yep.
final OVA
That's
before
the actual
Netflix.
show. Yes.
So it ends with the most boomer thing I've ever heard Motoko say, which is the internet or the net is ever expansive, Bato, and just it zooms out of her apartment and it shows the skyscraper apartment she's living in. It's just like. That's like Kramer in Seinfeld going, gee, Jerry, you know, the internet's hell of a thing. This is the most terrible ending.
Considering when the time it was written, when the internet was still in its infancy. I can see why they
Solid
went with
State
that
came
one.
out mid 2000s, dude. It wasn't in its infancy anymore. It was like the
No, I
foundations
thought we
for
were still talking
today's
about the
internet.
movie from
No.
1985.
I'm talking about. I'm talking about Solid State Society. That was the last one that didn't have outside meddlers. I really. Arise is fun, but I really don't like any of the new soft reboots because like they're a lot shallower. They're a lot more shallow. They're not designed for like people that like, enjoy philosophy. They're more designed for some philosophy, some morality.
Dramas.
I'm just gonna blow your mind because those
Yeah.
are not actually reboots; they're actually sequels.
I say soft reboots. Sorry,
They're
what'd you
not
say?
even soft reboots. They're like
What?
straight up, sequels to the Solid State Society.
Because continuing the story
not.
is a reboot.
Yeah,
Arise isn't a reboot. Arise is a prequel. It's a soft. Yeah.
But because technically those are two different. Well, there's like three different universes within that franchise.
That's
First
what a soft
is
reboot is, my dude. 3 different
No.
universes. There you go.
no, manga is one. The manga games, all of that stuff, right? And then there is Solid State Society plus the standalone complex,
yeah.
right? All of that stuff, including Arise. And then third one is 2 films. So those are not
No.
relatable.
No, other way around. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Arise is separate from the second one, which would be Solid State. Is the second film called Innocence? That's the one where they were kidnapping little kids and turning them into geisha dolls.
Yeah, but those are separate. Those are not. Those are completely different.
Hold on. Ghost in the Shell, Innocence, Solid State Society, Second Gig, Second Gig, and then Standalone Complex. The 5 things I just mentioned, the 2 movies and the 3 shows, are in the same universe.
Yeah.
And the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games.
And
the PSP game are in that universe. My point is, that's from the Toonami generation. That's our generation. I like that canonity because like it's not ridiculous. Like the manga had humor in it that I didn't really find funny. Motoko would randomly start having sex, and Bato is like, "Oh, this is painful because we're cyborgs." It's just like, I get the type of humor, but that's like Gen X humor. You know, like that's
Yes.
like late boomer, early Gen X humor, and I don't really appreciate it because I'm like, okay, neat, sex joke, haha, funny.
That's
But-
the reason why Mamoru Oshii fucking hated the original material that he had to work from.
But anywho, like what I was getting at is Arise is separate from the Toonami generation canon because Arise is namely designed for younger millennials and Zoomers because it's like, look, they're rebooting the female protagonist who was already a badass, and somehow now she's like, they gave her the Luke Skywalker treatment, or it's not it basically generic action hero. They start at the bottom and they're facing this threat that's overwhelming, and they're the last hope. Blah blah blah. Just like, cool. We already had Motoko, and she started off as a badass, and she fought overwhelming odds. You don't need to make her a teenage girl that's just learning the ropes. That's so dumb. Like,
Well,
not
you
really-
always gotta produce some old quality in order to appreciate the better, older quality.
yes, but
Since we're in a
Yeah, but we're not discussing that film now. I'm not sure why you're
anywho, yeah,
bringing
back
that
to the
shit
actual
up.
1990s movie. Let's. I'm gonna transition to Will because our special guest came in for a reason.
No,
Because
you're good, man.
when I
You're
heard. But when I heard he'd written the papers, I'm like, you need to bring that into our podcast. So, full grenades.
Hold on.
Since we're already discussing Motoko, well, maybe you should repel us on the main character. Motoko Kusanagi is a member of Sector 9 who is basically a cyborg, just like Bato. Bato is like half cyborg. She is full cyborg. She is also a special.
Her story is so damn depressing. Like, she survived a plane crash with one other person, and it was a boy who was paralyzed, and they were able to convince him to get a new body because they said, hey, that little girl that was in the flight, she has a prosthetic body. And I won't go too much into it, but like this whole thing with origami, because he said, I will only do it if I can still make origami. So she started practicing origami, and later she found out he was the leader of the migrant separatist movement.
That's not in the film.
No, it's not. It's in the series. But I'm saying, like, her story through the series is depressing as hell, and the film doesn't touch base on that. It's kind of like Blade Runner. Like, the film felt more in terms of character building. It's not bad. Like, but it felt like Blade
Where
Runner,
she's
where
a replicant.
I was gonna say that, like, whenever we're just talking about the film, like, a lot of this,
Okay.
like
That
we're talking
doesn't
about-
exist in the film. Yes.
yeah, I was gonna say, like,
sorry,
it doesn't.
I was comparing the bigger canon to the film, but the film.
Yeah.
Her character is pretty badass. I like her character. It's a lot like Deckard from Blade Runner. Like we established that she's a part of a special unit. She does her job rather well. Her unit acts as one organism. They have this, this formidable leader who's a short guy. He's physically not formidable, but his mind is like he kind of almost resembles Yoda, especially with the haircut he has. But like that's established. We have this team, and then you have the puppet master. That's this AI gone rogue. But my point being, like, the movie does a good job establishing her abilities, Bato's abilities, and the rest of the team's abilities, and the decision making skills of I forgot his name, the old man.
I don't know if I remember his name.
You mean Daisuke?
The guy in charge, the famous Japanese actor, played him in the live action.
Oh, crap. Yeah, Kitano?
Kitano?
Yeah, I think so. Takeshi Kitano?
I think it's Chief Nakamura.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's Chiefs.
Yeah. But Takeshi Kitano played him in the live adaptation.
Is it Aramaki? Yeah, Chief Daisuke Aramaki.
Yes.
Oh, right,
That's the guy I'm
because
talking
Nakamura's of Section 6.
Josh, can you put a picture of? I'm gonna put them in check. Could you put a picture of?
Yeah, something visual could help us.
Hey, you mean Daisuke? Okay, and either way,
He's not named Daisuke in the film.
unless Okay, so I am the tourist. You guys know more about this than.
Yep. Really quick. So, anywho, the movie introduces us to this concept of identity. In fact, I think the best sequence, which was reenacted in the live action, is the quote unquote terrorist actor who is actually just a guy being mind controlled. And in the animated film, we see a guy who they catch. He's like fighting tooth and nail to get away. They catch him, and he finds out his entire life was a lie. Same with another guy that they had found earlier who thought he had a wife and daughter, but it turns out he's just living in an empty apartment by himself. But the puppet master had reprogrammed his brain to think there's a wife and daughter at home, and he's doing regular work when in reality he's helping the puppet master's run. But that's the thing: these people's identities had been hijacked and partially erased. That's actually a horrifying concept. It's centered to all of this. It's your persona, your identity, yourself shift between bodies. Unfortunately, it's the other way around as well.
Oh,
Other things can shift into your mind and reprogram memories.
RJ, I found the guy. Daisuke Aramaki. Yes, that Takeshi
That's
Kitano.
the one.
Yeah, his voice actor was Osamu Saka in the Japanese version, William Knight in the English one, and Takeshi Kitano did in fact play him in the live action.
Nice. William Knight's voice is very familiar. I'm sorry. I got to go back to. Okay, Will, I need you to jump in.
All right. Damn.
So, we're gonna discuss battle and the rest, and
What's the biggest point of the papers you've written? Like, if you could not merge them per se, but no.
Very subtle character.
Yeah. So, I was in this mythology class, interestingly enough, and they wanted us to make for our final paper. They wanted us to do character analyses. I don't think I said that right, but whatever. Wait, hold up. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I can
Yes.
hear you.
Oh, sure. Hold on.
RJ,
Also, I can hear. Oh, Josh, could you could you turn him up slightly on your end so that he's better heard on the? Yep, thanks.
Jay, I played Metal Gear Solid 3 on the PlayStation 2, and I just noticed this. He's the voice. Osamu Saka is the voice of the end in the Japanese version.
Holy shit! The voice of the end is also the chief who goes on the show.
Damn,
That's nuts.
He's also
back to the character analyses in your mythology class. Now that you're back.
Yeah. So, we were supposed to use this. There's like this universal, kind of like anthropology thing called the hero's journey. It's like a theory that sort of, yeah. It's difficult to explain, but basically there's a pattern in human storytelling that's like so repeatable that there's like steps, and there's something like 17 steps to it or something like that. But anyway, so it correlates to mythology. So like the Epic of Gilgamesh, the flood with Noah and the Ark and all that stuff. They all have like these patterns. So the teacher wanted us to use that as a base to analyze the film / characters. So the paper that I did was just I posted it in the chat, but
Yeah.
It just talks about. It compares the plot of like the traditional heroes model with other um, media and stuff, and then compares it to Ghost in the Shell's uh, like chronological pattern of doing it, and it's really interesting because like I don't know about you guys, but like personally, whenever I watch the film, the way that the story is presented, like in terms of flow and speed and stuff, is like very unique compared to a lot of other films. Um, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
But uh, yeah,
Yeah. Also, just go through the I'll just quickly go through the hero's journey. Basically, it's like there's a starting point. There's a call to an adventure. There's some type of supernatural like aid or something that like makes them like special. A threshold for like guardians, so it's like there's like that threshold of like no one can kind of cap past that. The beginning of that
right.
threshold of like what's making them push a little bit past it. Usually a helper comes in or a mentor comes in, challenges, and then you can see like the growth, and then there's like a death that happens that like really makes them like go like what the hell, either like their own death of like their past or whatever, leading into a rebirth, which leads into a transformation, atoning for any sins or anything that happened in their past, and then fully utilizing that supernatural aid into like a gift, and then the return to normalcy at the end once they overcome. That's
Yeah.
usually how that goes out, and you can kind of track this through. Like, I think I learned about this in like 10th grade reading Beowulf. Like, yeah, it's just it's in like so many fictions, and you could track it through like anything, and you could probably like do an entire thing about every single anime following that same trajectory, and like how we're getting kind of bored of like isekais because of that. But yeah, no, like you can definitely see it in this um, as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you cannot dislike Isekai in the same way you dislike Mecha. Like, or wait, I think I was the one.
I just get bored of mech because of a completely different reason. I think the pacings are usually terrible in the shows. But we're not talking about that today.
We
um,
get since we're discussing Motoko. Well, we should actually give the other characters a chance. For example, you can't have Motoko without Bato.
yeah,
Since those two go hand in hand.
yeah. Well, that was the helper. That was the person that was helping Makoto get to where they need to be. And even at the beginning, whenever she said that she likes having someone who wasn't augmented around her, because if everyone's augmented, then they're all going to think the same, they're all going to have the same actions. You need that bit of um, unexpected around you to be able to actually
Something like
conquer.
a hot mind.
Yeah, like you need that unexpected factor. um, I mean, that was kind of like the premise of Parasite the Maxim, and like how they got through most of their fights. So yeah, same mentality, same ideas.
Anything else? But we could talk about 25-year-old. Yeah. What's 2501?
Laughing Man.
Yes, Puppet Master.
All right. Or no, sorry, Laughing Man.
I mean, I'm not the director, but we are kind of we're already at a level.
Ian Makoto.
Yeah, I
So
think
let's
it's
focus on that.
pretty interesting how the Puppet Master is portrayed, because he's not really a villain, not in the end.
Well, he's more of a character that basically tries to escape the sort of prison that he was in by, well, because he is AI, essentially, or some kind of artificial intelligence awoken, basically. And because of that, he felt like he needed to go out there to escape the sort of the repetitive task that he was assigned to do. Not only that, but also uncovers a lot of like a conspiracy against, well, or the within the, in this case, Japanese government, and various factions that go again, sort of go around the whole thing there. And the way that he wanted to escape is interesting because he wanted to essentially have uh, more or less have babies with with the main protagonist by basically cucking Bateau, but that's a different point.
Mhm.
The thing that I didn't like about him is
Yeah, I was
that
just gonna cut in and say cucking doesn't really work if only
Yeah.
one person is attracted to the other. That's not how cuckolding works.
I
Go on.
I would know.
Anywho.
Uh,
To the
I've gotten in 3 arguments over cucking this week. We're not getting.
it's it's okay, it's okay. But that's the thing, like, um, he as a character, he's not really a character. I would say
He's
he's
an
more of
idea.
a yeah.
Mhm.
He's more of a I'll say MacGuffin in some case because he gives Mateko exactly what she needs, which is higher. I get basically a higher purpose because the entirety of the film she was lacking it. At the very beginning, like basically right after the making of Cyborg, we see her awake in an apartment that is completely like empty. This is just a window, a bed, I guess a dressing room right next to it, like a bathroom or whatever, right? And
And a
there's
mirror.
nothing there. Yeah, a mirror. And there's nothing there. And the only thing she does is she wakes up, gets up, goes to the bath, gets the jacket, gets out, shuts the shutter, the window, and gets the hell out. That's it.
Mhm.
This is a shell, essentially.
It's
This
for
is not,
future.
yeah, this is not a live space. It's just a place where you rest your weary bones, well, in this case, cybernetic bones, and that's it. And you just move on.
Yeah.
And that subject, that AI essentially offer her a way out as well.
Mhm. It was the understanding that like it's like I'm going to be stuck in this continuous loop forever. If you continue doing what you're doing, you're gonna end up being stuck in this continuous loop. Here's your out. And like it's this
Yeah,
concept of what happens if you can live forever. It's the concept of what happens if you give AI too much information and then they start to take over and they start to see like their own humanity. So like there's so many different themes that you can kind of shed from it. Um, this is where I kind of
But like philosophy.
this is where I kind of differ on this where like it sounds cool. It's like it sounded like this amazing thing, but like we said at the beginning, it's like it's only puddle deep. It's a mile wide, but it's only puddle deep.
yeah.
It doesn't really echo well. Like it's like oh like that's it. Like you're trying
It's
to
kind
say
of
like that.
ironic.
Yeah, it's kind of like this like it's supposed to be like this really deep meaning thing, and like you're like walking through it and you're like wow this is kind of like a shallow stupid premise of like
Well,
a main villain. Like that's how I kind of felt. I was like like this could have been better, and I think that like if you go into the other series it gets better, but this one movie it like
Hence why there's a second film exists.
yes, so like
That's
this
the reason why.
yeah
That's the only reason.
yeah I was gonna say but like that's the
okay.
issue is like whenever you get into like films like this and we're talking about just this as a standalone film as something that like did people enjoy it outside of like like the cult like the cult following outside of like going into all the other pieces of work, did this one film hold up? And I'm like
Nope.
not really. Like I've
Nope.
seen the other pieces and I'm like that's more interesting, but like this one film it's just kind of like like cool whatever. um
You said
I
that
mean,
the film is like What's that word when mangas are like a single story, one shot?
One shot, yep.
One shot.
This is almost like a one shot. I want to see you guys chime in on that.
People gonna hate me for saying this. I think Akira stands better than this.
Going
I
on
can't agree
topic,
with you.
one shot.
That's more of
It's
a
hard to really. Yeah.
popular
I don't know.
opinion. Just want to
No,
piss off the fanboys.
it like we can go into the ratings like soon, but like I just there was a point where like I could already see where everything was going and like heading to, and like I just started getting bored, and I was probably around like 35 to 40 minutes into this
Yep,
film.
45 minutes.
Yeah, so like
It's
it,
yep.
there's all of these really cool concepts. There's all of like this like amazing ideas. Like the world is so huge, and like there's so many like really cool things, and you can see the inspiration from everything that we see in like cyberpunk stuff today. Like we just did cyberpunk. Like there's so much inspiration from this. Like where like they're talking
Mhm.
about how their bodies are modded and how they're gonna like have to like trade off the fact that like maintenance is like a big thing, but they get to like do all of these amazing things. They like there's all of these crazy concepts, but it's puddle deep. Like there's nothing there like outside of like, oh, like there's these cool concepts, and it you can pull from them all day, but like at the end of the
It's
day
still
it's like that's
shallow.
it. Yeah, that's it. So
You know, people gonna also hate me for saying this. What remind me is Marduk Scramble, the first, the second, and third compression, because that film, the trilogy, is exactly the same thing. It just slurred over 3 films as opposed to 1.
yeah.
That's the only difference.
And that's the other thing with this plot that and I kind of want to go into ratings after this because like this is
Yep.
gonna go long if we don't. The
We
plot,
ended up mixing the
Yeah.
characters and the plot at the same time.
yeah.
I mean,
But like
look. Yeah, go ahead.
just really quick, like there's so many really cool plot points, but there's so much of it that like you're like getting lost in it. Like there's so
Oh,
many
boy.
different things that are going on, and it's like okay, well
It's
You say
I-
you're getting
Ah.
lost in it.
I disagree. I
Uh,
don't think you're getting lost. I don't think it's just shallow
Yeah,
in terms of what it does. Look, for what is it, 119 minutes or something?
Mhm.
What's the
120 minus whatever
122 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at films like the first Appleseed. It's like 145. 1 hour 45 minutes. That film has more plot about artificial intelligence and the belonging and the like sort of escaping the prison, quote unquote, than the film that is like supposed to be this cult classic. And Apple City is always constantly getting shit on because, oh my god, a 3D animation's so bad. It's like, even though it explores way more stuff than that this film ever could.
Anyway, that's to goes in the show.
But
Um,
it doesn't. I'm not getting lost. Like, I don't know about you, Jonathan, but like, I'm not getting lost. It's just boring. It doesn't do anything for me. Now, mind you, I read a lot of science fiction, including cyberpunk stuff. Maybe that's just me.
I shouldn't say that like I'm getting lost. I'm saying like the
Oh.
plot loses
I
itself.
feel innocence
over
is
if
more about
it's-
getting lost.
Yeah, it's there's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much of it. Like there's so many plot points that they're trying to hit. There's so many
Innocence actually
concepts that they're
confused
trying to
me.
do. Yeah.
So what you're basically saying is there's too much stuff that they started,
That
but
like
they didn't finish.
yes, and then it just
Yes,
or like
okay.
or they didn't like go as deep with, and it
Yeah,
it
they
just
didn't
kind of
explore
like
a lot, basically.
and then
yeah.
you're like, wait, what about that thing back there? And it's not really like you're getting. It's just like
Yeah.
it's losing itself. Sorry, I didn't say that well.
Which makes it the same as the TV live action adaptation, basically.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point.
Yeah. So before we end up going
Yeah.
long, let's just go into the ratings because we went
Oh,
off
boy.
on a lot of tangents.
Yeah.
Usually I go first, since Will isn't here and we have different Will. I'm gonna go last. So
All right. Well, let me start then. Is it good film? Is it historical curiosity? Yes, absolutely. Is it bad? Yeah, it didn't age that well. People are gonna hate me. It's a 7.
All right, who's
Next.
next?
Okay, I will. Yeah, looking back on Ghost in the Shell, it had some good animation for the time. I thought the animation was at least serviceable. It was the one keynote that a lot of people bring up about it these days. Yeah, as everyone else we agree on is like the story is very unfocused, and it really doesn't have much to say compared to, I guess, its original source material, which again in itself is ironic in its storytelling, in which characters want to be free and less restricted to their daily lives, while this movie is restricted to its 1 hour runtime and telling a story. So I mainly give it, say, I guess, yeah, a 7. I can't exactly recommend it these days, but if you watch clips of it, you'll see just a peek of why people loved it back in the 90s.
You might as well watch the first 5 minutes of it. Also, original material. What plot?
Well, there's a plot, but
There's no plot. Well, there's
Well,
a
I was
plot, but
gonna
it's
say,
a pretty.
yeah.
It's a G-cup plot.
All right,
Sorry.
who's next?
It was also good.
oh,
Alright, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Pros, I think personally that it's pretty complex and compact, with the lore and philosophy in the film, but it does
Agreed.
require, it requires a lot more analyzation. So I think like a lot of people that are more, it depends because I don't know, I don't want to spend too long on it, but I think in a way that the film is kind of what, uh, however you want to make it, because there's enough Easter eggs and lore and philosophical ideas and stuff, where you could probably write like a small book on it or something. But if you just want to enjoy it as a base anime, I think it can pass as that. But the animation is definitely dated, and the characters are pretty not in depth either. But I don't know if that's a intentional choice since everything is artificial and they're all cyborgs and like they're trying to convey that it's more difficult to have emotions. So I don't know. I would say the movie's probably an 8.
8.
Yeah.
RJ.
9.
Came
Came out
out
swinging.
Just 9.
Came out
Great
swinging.
explanation.
Okay, no explanation
I
needed, I
literally
guess.
All right,
already put
all
my
right.
rating
All
as
right,
a 7.
all right. So, what Will said is fairly important. You need to have some level of analysis going on. The problem is, like, most people going in, they're not gonna walk in knowing about existentialism, nihilism, etc., etc., etc.
Or care.
And long story short, I appreciate it. I actually studied transhumanism. That was one of my focuses when I was in university studying philosophy. A fun fact: California, you have to study philosophy as one of the ways to go into law. Whenever I tell people that, they get surprised. They're like, "Wait, what?" But yeah. So when I was studying that, I came across stuff like "have no mouth, but I must scream." Johnny Mnemonic, Blade Runner. Johnny Mnemonic has some outdated stuff. Just quick note. There's a scene that's actually in the trailer where his bodyguard, this cyborg chick, is like, "What are you doing?" Because he's on a computer. He's like, "I'm making a long distance phone call to Hong Kong," and it's like a VR headset animation of him like traveling through a Tron like landscape to make a Skype call in Hong Kong. And it's like, bruh. You would have stuff like that from that era that's outdated, but then you have other stuff that is still like relatable to this day, which Ghost in the Shell also has, which is identity theft. Johnny Mnemonic is big on that. When I was studying stuff on transhumanism.
It means like cybercrime in general.
Yeah, cybercrime in general, but specifically violations of your person. Your memories, the data in your head, your like literally your credit card info, your basically your everything, your personal shit that you don't want everybody else knowing. The whole point of that movie was computers had become so insecure in terms of infrastructure that couriers were being hired with hard drives installed in their heads, carry data in secret. So they would land from an airplane, empty the data to a secure terminal, get their money, and then leave. Like essentially mailmen for secure data. And when you look at the one of the biggest plot points in this film, it's violation of the person. And that's very much relatable, especially with AI. I don't know if you guys saw, there was news articles and news reports where people are getting phone calls from their relatives who are not actually calling them. It's scammers using an AI that scraped samples of their voices just enough to sound convincing. There was a mother who was freaking out because basically she got a one second. I'm gonna wrap this up, but my point is it's really important that we look at how the themes are relatable, which is why I think this film is very important in general. So there's a mother who said she got a phone call from her daughter and she was freaking out because it sounded just like her daughter, voice fluctuations, the way et cetera, et cetera. And this guy had basically threatened to drug her daughter and sell her off into slavery unless she gave him, I think, like $20,000. I don't remember. Then, after some phone calls, she realized her daughter was safe at home, and it was like, what the hell? And so we haven't even reached the technological level of Ghost in the Shell. We're already having these sorts of crimes. And it's like the philosophy of the person, like you as an individual, all combined with this, technomancy of, upgrading your life either through direct biological implants or indirectly, devices. We all use devices. That, to me, is the most fascinating thing. But again, I'm partially biased because I study this stuff for fun, not just for schoolwork. But anywho, that aside, I like the visuals. The scene where Motoko goes invisible never gets boring because it's like Metal Gear Solid 2 had something like that where Snake jumps off I think the Verizona Bridge. No, not the Verizona Bridge. He jumps off is it Manhattan Bridge? I don't know. The bridge in New York. He jumps off of it to land on a tanker, and he turns on his stealth unit as he does it. I swear to God, that has to be like an homage to the scene with Motoko doing that, because it's similar. Right. It's like she jumps, and then lands, and then just goes on her reconnaissance with her gun. And basically, I love the visuals. I like the music. I like the sound design. I like the story, and I like the themes. 9 out of 10. I'm leaving just one point out because there is an issue with context. Unless you're going in knowing some of this stuff, you're not going to understand what's going on. You're just going to be like, oh, cool, mechanical stuff and cyborgs and shit.
All right.
Okay. And it's 9?
9 out of 10.
All right.
Really?
Come on, Striker. Wrap it over the bow.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so it looks like I'm not. So let's. All right. When I was watching this yesterday, I was watching this yesterday. I was actually thinking, this shit is going to bore me to tears, like Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, which honestly was my first exposure to Ghost in the Shell as a whole. And truth be told, like RJ, I grew up in the Tsunami era, and this was when they used to have ADHD levels of scheduling. So they had all these episode continuations that didn't go anywhere. If you've seen this show on TV, you will realize that Toonami actually did more damage to Ghost in the Shell than anything else regarding the how people will view these series. Like, yes, it takes a lot of analysis, right to the point you gotta have a 200 IQ in order to analyze the characters, the surroundings, and just about everything. Do I hate it though? Honestly, and this may come as a surprise, but I don't. I don't really hate it, but I don't really like it that much. As a matter of fact, I had my when you guys were telling me we were gonna watch Ghost in the Shell, I was like, yeah, fuck this shit. I'm not watching this. I was actually not gonna come in here tonight, but I give it a shot. The atmosphere, straight up, legit reminds me of Cowboy Bebop in a sense that, like Ghost in the Shell, it's based on
Actually,
what looks like Hong Kong, and if you've ever seen any old Hong Kong movies from the 1980s and 90s, most of them were filmed in the Kowloon area slums. So,
interesting.
yeah. The regarding the animation, I didn't pay much attention, as rather the artwork. I mostly analyzed the artwork instead. I dig the artwork actually. I dig the because I have I have a bit of a,
Backgrounds.
yeah, the backgrounds, the artwork, the vehicle design, pretty much everything. I when it comes to cyberpunk, I do have some interest in it, and most of it stemmed from Monitor magazine of all things, because they were showcasing the artwork of Sid Mead, who was the guy responsible for the vehicle for just not just the city designs, but pretty much the vehicle design for Blade Runner in the 1980s. I still have that copy with me. Regarding the score, the music is fine. The voice acting is actually not bad in the Japanese. The English one, I would have to remove some points. So I can't really, in my honest conscience, give this show a 9 because that makes me a shill. And a 7 would be too generous. I'll be honest when I say this is a. Yeah, it is a 7 actually. It's something that not everyone will ever get in with. I personally thought it was not bad, but it wasn't good in certain aspects. But I did enjoy the details in some of the the series plot. Well, the artwork. It's like this show tried to be too deep for what it was, which is honestly a worse take than Kiro over here. This show is incredibly pretentious at times. So, but that's just me being a fucking tourist and a dumbass.
All right.
Yeah.
So
So,
setting gang one, basically. Okay.
I mean, I'll admit, as someone who does get it and understand Ghost in the Shell, it can be pretentious.
Yes.
It is
And man, the
pretentious.
sequel
Yes.
goes even harder.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
another story.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not saying it's terrible. I know since Will is a fan of the series, besides RJ, but it's not for me. Like
That's
in a,
fine.
and I'm well. At least I did I was polite enough to watch the first movie, but I am not watching Standalone Complex ever again because
Oh, stop.
yeah, no. All right.
Toonami
Yeah.
ruined that series for me. Actually,
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
All right, got it.
All right. So going in the mine. So to preface this, I love cyberpunk stuff. Like The Matrix was one of my favorite movies growing up. I just love all of the designs, the ideas. Like I plan on getting biometric tattoos soon. Like I'm deep into this stuff. Um, with all of that said, so my bias is like I want to love this. And I understand all the concepts. I love all the like ideas of all of the plot points and all of the ideas of the themes and everything. And it just, whenever I'm saying it's too shallow, it's whenever you're going into these worlds, you really need to hammer it home. You really need to make people understand all of these like existential mindsets. You need to make people understand the cost benefit of everything, of like the government's going to have the better versions, the rich people are going to have the better versions. um that like this is going to create a lot of terrible things at the cost of like, so like not at the cost but like at the advancement of so many great things. And it's just, it doesn't feel like Ghost in the Shell is really touching on a lot of those points. And yes, this was like in the 90s, but there was amazing things before it that were doing a lot of cyberpunk things, and there were a lot of things that did amazing things afterward. And it feels like this was a lot of Akira fans that were just trying to grasp at something else, like something that felt in that same tone. And that's why it became like such a cult following, is because people wanted more of something else but just weren't getting it. I still love all of the designs. I love all of the animation. I love all of the artwork. Like I said, like I will appreciate all of these themes. It's just, if a movie is boring me, and this is really what it is, if it's boring me at 30 minutes in, and then it's hard to get back into, and then like you're like kind of paying attention, and even if like you're forcing yourself to, you're like trying to like grasp at like what's going on, because you've already kind of slipped out of that like retention rate. Like that's kind of the point. So as many great things as I can say, keeping my attention and keeping people entertained throughout the entire thing, not having that lull at like 35 minutes and lasting until about 55 minutes, having that like 20-minute like downturn really just turns me off of like anything, even if it's some of the best works ever. So I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
All hard for the night was holy shit.
Yeah,
People
like,
gotta say we're hating.
Honestly, I could have easily put it a 6 as well.
Yeah, like there's
Well,
so many
it's
It's very
great
difficult
things,
to recommend it.
but like
Oh.
the movie is 80 minutes long, and if I'm saying 20 minutes of that 80 minutes is terrible,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cuts the score down. Like
Yep.
that is what is that? Like a third of the movie or something like that?
Yeah,
Like
pretty much.
Yeah, like it's a fourth of the movie. It's
Like 3/4.
Yeah, like you can't have that. And that's why I'm giving it such a low score. Everything else in that like last 10 minutes and like the 30 minutes beforehand, amazing, great. Cannot say like enough about it, but that 20-minute lull just kills it.
Yeah, it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the artwork.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate it as well.
So that gives us an average rating of a 7.4. The mouse score was an 8.27. The IMDb was a 7.9.
oh boy.
So we're a little
Wait.
bit lower than that.
A little bit.
Yeah. So
I'm not even sure if I got that 8.27 from from the original or the
I
2.0.
checked. I did make sure that I checked. It was from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. We're gonna figure out what we're watching next month, but until then, we're signing off.
And
Bye.
stay safe out there.
Yeah, all the people on the East Coast, please don't choke to death on
Oh, we'll try.
Canadian fumes.
Yeah, and you